Hello, beautiful souls. Just a thought while I am traveling, getting some stuff done, paperwork, legal stuff. And I was just thinking about how much I've changed over the past 10 years since I divorced and didn't have my family unit like I sort of had it before. And then I started thinking about how it really doesn't matter to me the same anymore. Not that it doesn't matter, but that I grew to be so detached from the nucleus of my family that when things go, I'm not going to hang on to them. And it took me a long time to realize that that wasn't me being bad, but that was the state of things here. And it's the state of how people need to be that are malicious and evil and whatever, because they need to hide their crap. Whether that's the right-hand side or the left-hand side, they all got some crap they're hiding because they're imbalanced. They're in one side or another. They're not in the center, which of course that's the wheel. That's like the Templar cross. That's like the basis of everything when you bring things back to that circle with the center and the rays. The sun represents dark and light sun. So it's a representation, it's a base for basically of everything. So, and the toroidal field, which is the human being and is in everything. It's in every cell. It's like some people say, the pattern and the frequency, the design of God, and God as us, micro to macro. And that's all out there in the public now and stuff. So the reason why things are being revealed is because those who hid them, number one, can't hide behind them anymore because of the exposure of the sun and the new age, but also the change of the mind, the neural network, where there's a more sunny age. Obviously there's different types of neural networks within the body of us, and our bodies change with energy on the earth, as above so below, as within so without. And they will say, like, people who are totally into solipsism and don't feel like they are at all, it's New Age or it's Christianity or it's being in one center, act like they're the center of everything. And in a way you are. You're the apple of God's eye through you yourself, because it's the only way you can communicate. But you can't ignore the fact that there's conscious life forms all around you, seen and unseen. So to be in solipsis causes an imbalance to, like, the crazy white light Lucifer or the dark satanic, and then you leave out the right. But you need both hemispheres, and you need all angles of that cross, angels, angles of thought form of the cross, the four original astrological markers. There were 4. And yes, this age is about dividing, but everybody's complaining they want to go back to the simplicity. And we miss the simplicity of a family unit, yet at the same time we realize that family unit was a false thing made of the false matrix, which people here don't want to follow anymore. We don't know how, because that's been disrupted. And it's disrupted in order to mass reprogram it when these energies come in, because that's really literally what is happening. It's like another unseen galaxy forming and working with our own. And the way that I relate through all of that, through my whole journey, has been twin flames, has been the opposite external mirror, until my internal was my only mirror. And so in the time alone, you realize you don't need anything, but you also still want to communicate with other people. That's how us divining rods, us mushrooms, us ethers, us plasma, us waters, all that we are, that's how we are. It's about communication, the bumping against each other to learn new ways and new angles of thought. And so those thought angles divide, and divide and mess up and conquer and recalibrate. And we do this through times and epochs, and there's no stopping it. You can call it good or evil or whatever, but the more people that stay balanced within their center and don't be depressed or angry or hateful that their family unit, which was purposely dissolved on the exterior in order to dissolve the ego of the person, don't get sad about it, because it can be used for evil by the external, because they're the matrix, they're what's external to your cellular self, your God, your wholeness, your balance, which is your individual fulcrum. You're not the same exact cell as everything here on earth, or the same conglomerate of cells. So therefore, as much as you can relate within this, you are not this, you are also an individual, because God wants to experience reality through individual. But there's a seen and an unseen world there. And the unseen individual is your own spirit. Why I say bow to your soul. Bow to your soul until you can, the Father, the light of the Father is one with the Mother, and that oneness within the self is slowly realized, not through solipsism, not through Luciferian Satanism, socialism, feudalism, fundamentalism, all these isms and entities, but you know yourself from the center, and then that begins to purify the mind. And it's not the imbalance of I'm a bad mushroom, I'm a good ether, I'm a bad ether, I'm a good mushroom, all this good, bad, left, right, I'm the darkness is an imbalance. And basically, when there's a purging of the cell, everything that isn't balanced with it has to be pushed outside of it. Now that's you evolving. There's nothing wrong with that. The sun's doing that right now. The earth is doing that right now. Sometimes we project large amounts of energy, and sometimes we collect our energy, and sometimes we pause and be still within the nothing to know our own energy. And the earth and the sun and us, we're all doing this right now. Everything is doing this right now. So as much as it hurts to not have friends and not have family because they're your family, but in a second they'll drop you for somebody else, or they'll drop you for something that's better, at the same time, I want that, because I don't want people in my energy until it's purified that I'm going to think something negative about or attach something negative to, when it's just an expression of where that cell is in their moment, space, and time. And I want to keep that wisdom in my center so I can heal. And then when I can heal, things around me will heal, because that's how nature is. And when you're able to heal, it involves breaking down old ideas. It involves getting rid of old people. It involves a lot of that, but not the way the severe left or the severe right says. As much as it's all the rage, witchcraft, Luciferian, Satanism is an ism, just like Christianity is an ism and an entity. It's just the polar opposite of that. So you're identifying with a polar opposite of something instead of your center. And until you know your center, you will always identify as that out there, instead of identifying as how is this in here. And when it's at its maximum, its solar maximum, how does it act and react with this world? How can I make that calm in this transition? This X marks the spot, this space of love. How can I keep it as calm as possible? And the more I do that, the more reality around me becomes super calm, becomes what I enjoy being around. People don't aggravate the hell out of me and bother me like they used to before. And if they do, I don't allow them in my life. I get rid of them as quickly as possible and let them go to the corner they worship. They're Satan, they're Lucifer, They're Marduk to Jesus becomes Lucifer again, and the morning star becomes, and the sun flips its poles, and the Venus changes poles, and the earth switches poles. And do you get it? Your ideas switch poles. And which was once was evil becomes the better thing, because you're just playing with sides of coins and not realizing you're all the metal that makes up the coin, the currency, the battery of this earth. And so the being alone before the deep self-realization keeps you from doing all kinds of stupid things. If I had not been quarantined because of all the bad, negative, cultish, stupid religious crap in my life, if I had not been forced down sick and made quarantined by that, Bovid, think about this in a deeper way, because I was thinking about this before I made the video, because Bovid's going through my house again. That's what I call it. It's not the Bovid I want to eat, but it is the Bovid I would be fine SHITing out. Shites. So, and that's what you do when you have a disease. You get rid of it. So anyways, thinking about these quarantines, these spurts of growth, and then the locking down and the compression, until you notice it as all positive, and I can go back and see how as horrible as things that were happening with Bovid and around Bovid were, and catching it 4 times or more so far has been very hard. It's made me who I am now, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. So these losing of loves and losing of people who just want to take your energy and don't want to grow up and be balanced, and they want to play their little plays of Lucifer and Jesus and solipsism and patriarchal severity, and because that's all these isms are, these outside plays and games. They are not you. They're you trying to find your place within society. And those things that control society, when they see a huge game, which mentally ill and or brilliant people or angelic realm people who have their head in the ethers and their body in the ethers, death, do, ego death, do, that's what we do. We change reality via ourselves, because we're like, nah, you can play in your muddy putties. It's beautiful muddy putties, but I'm not playing in it with you. And when you do that and pull your energy in, the more it hurts, the more you're going to bloom. Because when you learn that hurt is actually literally addiction to Maya, and that when you get the control of the fact that you can put that off and put that on willingly, then it's not a control. It's not an addiction. It's not a stimulation. So you're not here just being buffeted by the matrix and the stimulation of it, but you see beyond it, and you start seeing everything how it serves your better purpose and your goodness and your wholeness. And there's times of winter and there's times of summer. Saturn in your life, and there's times of Jupiter in your life, which can be both negative and positive, both of them. I highly recommend, if you're looking for your center, you look at your own astrology chart, but you also base it off of only having 4 directions. It will break it down and have it not be so complicated, the cell, in order so that you can branch out as you learn all the different nodes and all the different minor aspects of yourself. Because if you're able to connect with astrology via your center and the ethers, above, below, within, without, you just connect and things just start happening, and you just start thinking of wholeness as wholeness. You can't do that from a place that's, into your far right or your far left, or your divine masculine too much, divine feminine too much, this, that, your 4 corners. You just be making these squares, these Templar squares of reality. And God is in the center. God is in the vortex. God is in the center of those things, the toroidal field. And so when you get in your toroidal field, then you understand God, because God is that and not separate from that. God's in the whirlwind. You hear the still small voice in the whirlwind. Where? In your center. And that's where your heart changes and transmutation begins. And the crystal consciousness, Christ ability, even the crystals in your own ears and your body align different, because that's normal. It's what's supposed to happen. It is just part of your conscious evolution, which has to start in the inside before it's going to start in your world. And as it goes as a collective, the more people come into their center and don't follow the isms, entities, and the man-made constructs, though they're not bad, we need construct, or we don't be here. And when we no longer need this construct, it won't be here. We won't be part of it, and we won't be experiencing it. So going with the flow isn't scary, because you trust yourself, because that's God, because God's not separate from you. So when fears come in, and loss of people and loss of humans in your life, you can just be like, that's the flow, that's the center, that's the toroidal field, the cell cleaning itself out. And the more time you spend alone, it's true, the stronger you get. You can repel disease more. People say, no, you need to be in disease and experience it and get it. Well, that's a whole nother thing of building up immunity. But there's also mental and spiritual immunity, which when those alchemies, the 4 alchemies, get together on all the levels, there's more than that, there's like 5. There's other levels of alchemy and branches, because we branched off from the 4 original, the center being the 5th. But years ago, I started teaching about alchemy because I had revelations. People just hated me and wanted to destroy me and wanted to rip me down, and I don't care, because I learned to make my own alchemy. My spirit literally forced me to recognize myself in the most brutal, horrible circumstances I could have cooked up for myself. And it happened over and over and over again. It wasn't one time. It's been since I was a child. So do I get angry at God? No, because that's like myself. And so I will just be angry and bitter and uncentered. I don't care about the God out there no more. Like, the more I cut it off and the more I love myself, the more I heal. And lost a part of this system as a whole, I'll consider myself. Whether or not I'm here experiencing, whatever I'm experiencing. Oh, the government, and everyone's like, to get your sovereignty, you really need to get rid of everything, blee, blee, blah, blah, blah here. Well, that external shit will happen as the rest of it happens. It has to happen inside the individual first, not by fighting the system. You're here, you have a social security number, you have to use it sometimes. I try never to use it if I can keep from using it. Only because people hijack information that way. Outside of myself, I don't consider myself a number. And if I do, with my astrology and numerology and my social security number, which funny, all kind of coincides, it's my matrix, it's not their matrix. I came here to be God experiencing in this matrix. So I'm going to use some of it, and I'm not going to feel ashamed or have someone tell me, oh, you're not sovereign if you don't break free from the state. Well, then that means they're not sovereign because they haven't broken free from this reality construct yet. And until they do that, it's not going to heal. So you can be a rebel and be angry or do whatever you want against the state or the church or religions or rich people or any of that. Because none of that is wrong. It's how people use it, because they're imbalanced on this crossroads, at the center, at the Templar cross, which the Templars used to make the matrix even more externalized instead of internalized, which they're now claiming that they're all about. They're not. They're a money corporation. They're a corporation. And I don't want to get into bashing them or any other religion or people right now, because it's not the point. The point is, you're the point. And until you truly find yourself within the dream matrix, this beautiful thing you're helping to create now, because you're in it, not a prison, a beautiful thing you're helping to create, it won't be beautiful. And you'll come back here again, fighting it and calling it a disease and hating yourself because you don't understand that it's your matrix. It's your vibration. And if you want to change it, you got to change your vibe. And you can't change it the way anyone's telling you to, who does not know their center. Because they're just going to continue to be these imbalanced male-female battery polarity paradigms for an ism and an anity, or some ridiculous belief system, like this person I just tried to pass in the street. He's driving a Corvette but can't get around the freaking corner with his car. All right, well, some people drive for pleasure, some people drive for purpose, whatever, it's their life. So anyways, that was a distraction. But basically, everything around you will be a distraction until you build up the core, the center, the self. And part of that being alone, you literally want to be stimulated and exercise, especially in these times where check out Kelly Kerr, is a middle name, but Kelly Kerr, Kerr, on YouTube, who talks about the Christ and the Kundalini and the Christ consciousness and how that's all a biology within your own mechanism. She explains the toroidal field and everything perfectly. So even knowing those things, there's people that worship the imbalances of believing that they're God and they're Lucifer and they're all screwed up and they've got to rule their world because, you know, if they don't protect themselves, everyone else is going to destroy them. Sound like Satanists? Yeah, they make that paradigm for themselves. So does church, and I want nothing to do with either side of it. I need to know myself. And from that deep knowing of the self, and it's funny how the Satanists who took on demons, the jinn, weren't learning from them, but I did, because I was going to learn from them. Because if you actually learn through the bullshit of these confused minds, then you start to pick up on secret information that the person necessarily carrying that entity is so immersed in it and the power of it that they don't get it. And I understand that because I've had it in me. I've been immersed in these powers, so I know what I'm talking about. I know what it's like to get a six-pack within a few days when you've never had one. Well, maybe since you were a kid. So I'm not saying they're not strong, but I am saying that that center needs to be yours and not given over to something else. And that can't happen unless you do it from a place of consciousness. So to give up things, especially this time of year when everyone else is experiencing, you know, family and this love and all the external lovey love feelings that people like, I hate Christmas, I don't want to experience the fake love. No, the fake love is you then, because Christmas is you. Because the sun dies for the 3 days, or it's kept at the horizon for so many days, which is more obvious in the north than in the south. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you go through these times in order to realize the self. And that Jupiterian flow and you know, with Saturn getting along, you know, is what the heart center of the man is all about. It's all symbology of you. So I would highly suggest loving Christmas, whether or not, and it's not the mass or the killing of the Christ. It's about the Christ dying, actually. It's almost like Easter. You know, on the horizon and coming back again. It means spring is coming back. So we celebrate, and different cults do that different ways because they're at some branch of some side of that four-armed cross instead of being in the center of it. And I can't tell everybody what that is for them, because then, which is what I'm learning about, you know, my roots in mysticism, is that you're you, and you cannot explain you and God being one to anybody but you. They're just not going to fathom it. And you can tell them that on a scientific level, maybe because they relate more in a scientific way, which I try to do, or I bring in symbolism. And so I try to bring all these things into the table or onto the table. But I realize that it's usually the chaos of these types of times where people are forced to find their center. So I need to let them go and let them do that. And that's hard. It's hard. Because some people you wish you could eliminate from the game because they think it's a game and they don't worship God in it. Or some people worship themselves as the only God in it, and then therefore you're the game. So there's this balance that has to be found. And when all of us, I've said it before, when all of us are trying to find that balance, we can be really fruity. We can be really experience mental illness until we find that center and balance in ways we never could have imagined. Not because finding one's center is evil, but because you're having to cut off every single pendulum and thought form and egregore or anything else here that's been put before you as reality. And that's not an easy thing to do. It sounds easy if someone says it, or if you think of a monk on a high mountain meditating, whatever. But at some point you got to come back down to earth and be a human being. And so when you're practicing the arts of knowing the self, or the mystery, which is the self, you're going to have these strange experiences because you're having to cut off the false matrix and realize at the same time it's only false because you're seeing through a false lens. You're not seeing through your center. And so all of this is externalized to you instead of you being at rest and saying, hey, God's at rest, so I have a right to be at rest. Because everything and everyone around you will tell you you have no right to be at rest. You have no right to rest. And when they do, then it's in some Christian way. Oh, just trust in God, Jesus, take the wheel. And in that case, externalized religious solipsism or fundamentalism or whatever ism and anity of illness will have you convinced that abdicating your sovereignty is the way to go. And that's not what I'm talking about. And until you grasp that as a whole, you will go through mental illness. You'll go through times of shaking and loosening and changing up of foundations and belief systems until the only foundation you have is you, and that's called the ego death. Losing the ego, letting go of who you thought you were, which was a relationship to the external, and realizing that you're not just that you're everything. And so you can rest in the operation of being part of the whole. It's not like, oh, you're this unit in the neural network, so you don't matter, or you're this, you're this ostracized thing from the family, so you don't matter, or you have no more foundation and no more religion and no more allegiance, so you don't matter. And people love that are on the solipsism or feudal side. They just want to fight, and that's all the program they are and want to be. They don't want to see themselves. They want power. They don't want to see themselves. They want externalized power. And you will never see the strongest power that you possibly can be until you let go of all of that. And you stop trying to control people and you just learn from your center. Because the more your center is adapted and centered, the more you're going to be the cell, the individual that God exactly wanted you to be on this earth in order to bring about the greatest change. So there's chaos because we are not in order. And these different groups like Templars and Masons and all these people quoting order from chaos in temple language, well, they're more for the external temples than the inside. They want your devotion, they want your energy, and as long as you're putting it out there and giving it away, why the heck shouldn't they have it? because they're tapped into a greater neural network. And I'm not saying they're right. I'm simply saying that's how it is. But when you tap into your real neural network and the neural network above and below, and you're all plugged in and you're happy within the space of the self, the soul, the center, then you're going to serve everything from a better place. You know, not like totalitarian or just socialist or just whatever ist or ism. These things all have to exist in a balance. There's just socialism and communism could be good bed friends if they actually didn't have a person who with a messed up head with these isms and like solipsism and who have to come in and mess everything up. And there will always be that diseased person who will want the ultimate control. And so until you teach individuals, and you can't in a low energy thought form where people are collecting energy off the masses via the external church and the external ley lines and death, that, because that's a collective thing, thought, they'll never understand anything except for in terms of fighting to live and dying. And that is the warmonger ancestral inside all of us, because they had to fight to stay alive, to be anything, to have a sovereign soul. But I'm saying you don't have to fight to know your soul is sovereign. Sometimes in this earth you have to, but as you change the order of fight and flight within yourself and don't put yourself out there to be manipulated by that, it can't manipulate you. And I'm not saying bad things don't happen to good people or that you attract blah, 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 blah. Know your soul and your cells and yourself has a program which has a greater part in the Godhead. So nobody has a right to tell you what that is. But at the same time, those teachings are sound when you can comprehend them from the center. And a lot of times I don't even comprehend what I'm saying because I learn as I speak, which is called Thoth, which is called Mercury, which is called channeling, which is called being your Godhead, which is having an iblis, which is being a demon, which is having the temple rent in twain, the inner outer court, blah, 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 of all these sayings. And that will only increase as the energy within the cell and the self increases. So like I can't judge anybody else on that path, but I can see above things. And the more I see above things, the more I call out BS on these corners, these belief systems and these predatorial nature things that are being pressed out of reality currently by the sun and how the earth is changing and we're all changing. So when you have to be alone, feel how crappy it feels and push beyond it, knowing that it's actually good for you and it's actually healing once you push past the trauma, the drama, the lies dumped on you from the outside that you're evil, awful, whatever ism, entity, osis, you know, you gotta be meta from the inside and yeah, not from the external. And still, I would say, even if we were forced to be meta, which AI forces you actually to look into it, it actually will force meta in the mind and the body, would actually force you to have the third eye open, which has been predicted as a type of electronic Satanism. So actually a lot of Satans are fighting to keep the original design of the human and not go into it. So they actually have their good moral fight in their corner. They just don't realize that they're still being a slave to the whole picture because they're in that corner. But they all have their use in the storyline. So spend time alone. Enjoy it. Like I had to go for a long drive today, like I said, to drop off paperwork, and it's been very good for me. Very good. Thank you very much, beautiful souls. I am, yes, being serious today because it's good to laugh, it's good to cry, it's good to be serious, And it's good when you know that someone's trying to make you look like a lunatic on purpose, to be very centered. And that's what people do. So I will go through these stages willingly playing externalized games because I'm not scared of the games, because I'm not scared of being imperfect or being seen as imperfect, because what I am is way beyond what those corner pockets of belief systems can comprehend. And that's what being in your center is. Being close to the heart of God, not away from it. Being close to the toroidal field, to the cell, to the bird in the nest, in the head. The Christ and the Lucifer, the light dawning. It's not evil. It's not evil. People make it evil. Like everything else on this earth. Thank you.